Welcome to my channel, Most Worth Coins, WC. Here you'll find videos about rare, valuable, and interesting coins from around the world. Watch the videos, learn about coin history, coin values, and unique facts you won't find anywhere else. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps us grow and bring you even more amazing coin content. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. The 1976 1 new penny is a British decimal coin issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and it represents one of the many small but significant changes that occurred within the United Kingdom's monetary system in the second half of the 20th century. To understand this coin, it is essential to place it in the wider context of Britain's historic move from the centuries-old pound-SD system, pounds, shillings, and pence, to the more modern decimalized system that officially took effect on the 15th of February, 1971, known as Decimal Day. Prior to decimalization, £1 sterling was divided into 20 shillings, and each shilling was divided into 12 pence, giving 240 pence to the pound. The change in 1971 simplified the system so that £1 equaled 100 pence, and new coins had to be struck to replace the old denominations. The 1 new penny coin was born out of this transition, issued to represent 1/100th of a pound. The 1976 dated coin belongs to the first decimal penny series, which continued to use the term new penny to distinguish it from the old pre-decimal penny, a much larger bronze coin. The obverse of the 1976 1 new penny carries the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, who by then had been on the throne for over 2 decades. The portrait used on this coin was the second official effigy of the Queen, designed by Arnold Machen OBI, a sculptor of considerable renown. This portrait was introduced in 1968 and remained on British coinage until 1984, making it one of the most familiar depictions of the monarch. In the portrait, the Queen is shown facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a delicate and elegant piece of jewelry that had originally been a wedding gift to her grandmother, Queen Mary, in 1893. This tiara gives the portrait a graceful lightness compared to the earlier more regal laureate head used on coins. Around the portrait is a legend Elizabeth II DG Reg, FD 1976. This inscription is a Latin abbreviation, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fide Defensa, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The inclusion of FD refers to the monarch's role as Supreme Governor of the Church of England, a title first bestowed upon King Henry VIII in the 16th century and passed down to successive monarchs. The date 1976 appears at the end of the legend, completing the obverse design. The reverse of the 1976 1 new penny was designed by Christopher Ironside, a talented artist and designer who created most of the decimal coin reverses introduced in 1971. His design for the penny features the portcullis with chains, an emblem strongly associated with the British Parliament and with the Palace of Westminster. The portcullis design had long been used as a heraldic badge and also appeared as a mint mark on some of the very earliest coins of Henry VII in the late 15th century. By choosing this emblem, Ironside reinforced a sense of continuity and tradition within a coin that was otherwise part of a revolutionary change in the monetary system. Above the portcullis, in bold lettering, is the word new penny, signifying that this coin belonged to the new decimal series and was distinct from the old penny that had ceased circulating after 1971. Beneath the portcullis is a value 1, plain and clear, leaving no doubt as to the denomination. The design is symmetrical, compact, and functional, which suited the practical needs of the coinage at the time. From a physical standpoint, the 1976 1 new penny was struck in bronze, composed of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, giving it a reddish-brown metallic color that was characteristic of the bronze coinage of the era. Each coin weighed 3.56 grams, measured 20.3 millimeters in diameter, and had a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. The edge of the coin is smooth, without reading or lettering. The coin's relatively small size and bronze alloy made it practical for daily transactions, though by modern standards, it was still noticeably heavier than the copper-plated steel pennies introduced in 1992. At the time, however, the bronze penny was considered durable and aesthetically pleasing. Coins like the 1976 issue would have been produced in large quantities by the Royal Mint, which had moved operation from Tower Hill in London to a new, state-of-the-art facility in Lantrysant, South Wales, by the early 1970s to meet the massive demand for decimal coinage. In terms of circulation, the 1976 1 penny was a common coin and was not issued as part of any special commemorative program. It entered everyday use across the United Kingdom, being handled daily by millions of people in shops, buses, and pubs. Because of the high mintages, circulated examples of the 1976 penny are extremely common and carry only face value or nominal collector's value. However, uncirculated examples, proof issues, or coins struck with exceptional clarity can be of greater interest to collectors. Proof versions were included in annual sets produced by the Royal Mint, often packaged attractively for numismatists who wish to preserve examples of each year's coinage. These proof coins exhibit mirror-like fields and frosted designs, making them more appealing than the standard circulation strikes. A fascinating aspect of the 1976 1 penny lies in its broader cultural and economic context. Britain in the mid-1970s was undergoing significant challenges, including high inflation, economic struggles, and political shifts. For ordinary citizens, coins like the penny were everyday tools of commerce, but they also reflected a sense of national identity, especially through their heraldic and royal imagery. The fact that the coins bore Latin inscriptions and heraldic devices showed how Britain balanced modernization with tradition, bridging the old world and the new. The continued use of the words new penny was itself a marker of transition. By 1982, the word new was dropped, and the coin simply read 1 penny. This subtle change signaled that decimalization had become fully embedded in the national consciousness and no longer required clarification. From a collector's perspective today, the 1976 1 penny is not rare, but it holds value as part of a complete date run of decimal pennies, or as part of a historical collection of Elizabeth II coinage. The coin is especially meaningful for those who study the progression of Britain's coinage during Elizabeth II's reign, as it reflects not only numismatic design, but also the economic circumstances of the mid-1970s. Well-preserved specimens, particularly in high-grade mint state or proof condition, are sought after by specialists, though their market value remains modest due to the sheer quantity minted. Still, for many enthusiasts, the sentimental and historical value of such coins outweighs their monetary worth, as they represent a tangible link to the everyday life of Britain in the 1970s. The 2002 1 penny coin of the United Kingdom represents a small but enduring unit of the decimal currency system introduced in 1971, and it is part of a continuous tradition of coinage struck under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. By 2002, decimalization was well established, and the word new, which originally distinguished the post-1971 penny from its larger pre-decimal ancestor, had been dropped from the coin's design for 20 years. Thus, while earlier pennies bore the inscription New Penny, by 2002 the reverse design simply read 1 penny. This subtle linguistic shift is one of the key distinctions between the penny of 2002 and its predecessors of the 1970s. Yet, despite its small face value, the penny remained a powerful symbol of continuity, identity, and national heritage, embodying centuries of tradition even in the modernized decimal system. The obverse design of the 2002 1 penny bears the fourth definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, created by the sculptor Ian Rank Broadley FBS and first introduced onto UK coinage in 1998. This portrait was strikingly different from its predecessors, particularly the more idealized second effigy by Arnold Machin, 1968 to 1984, and the softer third effigy by Raphael Maklouf, 1985 to 1997. Rank Broadley's portrait sought realism over idealization. The Queen is depicted in a dignified, naturalistic manner, with noticeable maturity in her features, reflecting her age at the time. She was 76 in 2002. She is shown facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, an iconic piece of royal jewelry, much like earlier portraits, though rendered here with sharper, more defined lines. Surrounding the effigy is a traditional Latin legend, Elizabeth II DG Reg, FD 2002. This expands to Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fide Defensa, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The date 2002 sits clearly within the inscription, directly linking the coin to its year of issue. Rank Broadley's portrayal was sometimes considered unflattering for its honesty, but it carried the weight of respect and accuracy, portraying the monarch as she truly was in her later reign, which suited a new generation accustomed to seeing her regularly in media. Turning to the reverse design, we find the enduring portcullis with chains, surmounted by a coronet, which had been chosen by Christopher Ironside in the original decimal designs of 1971. This heraldic device, historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and British Parliament, symbolizes authority, governance, and the sovereignty of the Crown within the nation's democratic system. The word 1 penny appears above the portcullis, now standardized since 1982, and the denomination 1 is positioned below. This clear, bold design made the coin easily recognizable, practical for circulation, and distinct from other small denominations such as a 2-pence coin. By 2002, the reverse design had been in use for over 30 years, making it one of the longest-running reverse motifs in modern British coinage, surviving until the great redesign of 2008 when the Royal Shield series was introduced. Its longevity underscores the design's success in balancing functionality with tradition. Physically, the 2002 1 penny was no longer struck in the classic bronze alloy used between 1971 and 1991. In 1992, the Royal Mint had switched the composition of pennies and 2-pence coins from bronze, 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, 0.5% tin, to copper-plated steel. This change was made due to the rising cost of copper, which by the early 1990s made it uneconomical to continue striking low-value coins in bronze. The new steel-based pennies were noticeably magnetic, a characteristic that collectors and the general public alike found curious. By 2002, every penny in circulation was copper-plated steel, and their appearance was virtually indistinguishable from the older bronze issues at first glance, though in time, the plated surface tended to darken differently in circulation. Each 2002 penny weighed 3.56 grams, had a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, and was 1.65 millimeters thick, with a plain edge. These dimensions preserve continuity with the bronze pennies of the 1970s and 1980s, ensuring that older and newer issues could circulate interchangeably without confusion. From the standpoint of mintage, the 2002 penny was struck in very large numbers, as small denomination coins were still heavily used in everyday transactions at the time. By the early 2000s, the United Kingdom had not yet seen a decline in coin usage that would come later with the spread of electronic payments. As such, pennies were essential for making exact change, particularly given that many items in shops, cafes, and transport fares were still priced in amounts that required 1p and 2p coins. In addition to circulation strikes, the Royal Mint also produced brilliant uncirculated sets and proof sets containing 2002 pennies. Proof versions were particularly attractive, with mirror-like fields and frosted designs, appealing to collectors who wanted pristine examples. The coin also appeared in year sets celebrating the Golden Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II, which marked the 50th anniversary of her accession to the throne in 1952. Though the standard penny design was not altered to commemorate the Jubilee, proof and commemorative packaging gave the 2002 dated coin a place in the celebrations. Culturally, the penny by 2002 remained an everyday coin, but it was beginning to lose its importance in the wider economy. Inflation over the decades had steadily eroded its purchasing power. Whereas in the 1970s a penny could buy small sweets or contribute meaningfully to bus fares, by the early 2000s it was often seen as a nuisance coin, easily discarded or left in jars at home. Yet, despite its diminishing economic role, the penny carried symbolic weight. The saying, "look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves," remained embedded in British culture, thrift, and care even in small matters. Moreover, as a coin still bearing the heraldic portcullis and the Queen's portrait, it connected daily life to the traditions of governance and monarchy, making the penny more than just small change. In numismatic terms, the 2002 1 penny is not rare. Circulation examples are extremely common and generally worth only their face value, even in uncirculated condition. However, the coin is important for collectors seeking a complete date run of decimal pennies, and it occupies an interesting transitional period between the older bronze issues and the later Royal Shield designs introduced in 2008. Proof specimens, particularly those struck for the Golden Jubilee sets, carry additional collector appeal, not because the penny itself was altered, but because it shared space with other commemoratives of one of the most important anniversaries of Elizabeth II's reign. High-grade circulation examples, while not especially valuable, can still attract interest from those who enjoy assembling complete, pristine decimal sets. When viewed within the broader historical arc of British coinage, the Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD 2002 one penny is a quiet but telling piece. It reflects the persistence of a denomination first introduced in decimal form over 30 years earlier, a denomination that had become almost symbolic rather than economically useful. It also embodies a maturing reign of Elizabeth II, whose portrait had by now appeared on billions of coins across the Commonwealth, making her image the most widely reproduced in history. The 2006 one-penny coin belongs to the decimal coinage system of the United Kingdom and is struck under the long reign of Queen Elizabeth II, whose likeness continued to appear on every British coin throughout her tenure. The penny of 2006 represented continuity more than change, being one of the standard circulating coins that had maintained the same size, weight, and design since the decimal transition of 1971. By this point, decimalization was no longer a novelty. It had been in place for 35 years, and entire generations of Britons had grown up using the smaller bronze and later steel pennies, with no memory of the much larger pre-decimal penny that had once been a staple of British pockets. Thus, while the coin itself was familiar and ubiquitous, the numismatic details and historical context surrounding the 2006 penny reveal much about the evolution of Britain's economy, coinage, and monarchy at the dawn of the 21st century. The obverse of the coin in 2006 featured the fourth definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley FRBS, a sculptor whose work marked a notable departure from the idealized and youthful depictions of earlier engravers. Introduced in 1998, Rank Broadley's portrait was intended to reflect the Queen's age more realistically, presenting her with fuller facial features, a mature presence, and without the softened, idealized treatment seen in Raphael Maklouf's effigy of 1985 to 1997. She wears a Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a piece of jewelry often used in her portraits, and she faces to the right, in keeping with the alternating direction tradition of British coinage portraits. Around the effigy is inscribed a Latin legend, Elizabeth II DG Reg FD 2006, standing for Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fide Defensa, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. The date 2006 anchors a coin in its year of issue, and the overall effect of Rank Broadley's portrait is one of solemn dignity, well suited to the Queen's image as a steady, experienced monarch who had guided Britain through decades of profound change. On the reverse, we find a design that had by then become iconic, the portcullis with chains surmounted by a coronet, created by designer Christopher Ironside for the decimal coinage in 1971. The portcullis is a heraldic device strongly associated with the Palace of Westminster and Parliament, a symbol of state authority and governance. Historically, the portcullis was a defensive structure used in medieval castles, and its adaptation into heraldry tied it to notions of strength, stability, and the safeguarding of the nation. In the context of the penny, it was meant to provide a sense of timeless tradition and continuity, even as Britain had transitioned to a modern decimal system. The legend one penny runs along the upper perimeter of the coin, replacing the earlier new penny wording that had been used from 1971 to 1981. Below the portcullis appears the bold numeral 1, making the denomination unmistakable. The design is both simple and effective, serving its purpose clearly while maintaining an aesthetic link to Britain's heraldic past. Physically, the 2006 one penny was struck in copper-plated steel, a composition introduced in 1992 when the Royal Mint shifted away from the traditional bronze alloy used from 1971 to 1991. The change was prompted by the rising cost of copper, which made bronze uneconomical for the minting of low-denomination coins. The new copper-plated steel pennies retain the same weight, 3.56 grams, diameter, 20.3 millimeters, and thickness, 1.65 millimeters, as their bronze predecessors, ensuring that all pennies circulated seamlessly together regardless of date. The edge of the coin is plain, without any inscription or milling. The use of steel meant the coin was magnetic, a fact easily noticed by collectors and the public alike, since older bronze pennies were not. Over time, copper-plated steel pennies have shown a tendency to darken and sometimes corrode slightly differently compared to the earlier bronze issues, but visually in circulation, both types appear very similar. The year 2006 was not associated with any special commemorative redesign for the penny, so its obverse and reverse retained their standard forms. However, proof and uncirculated sets struck by the Royal Mint in 2006 included the penny, giving collectors a chance to obtain high-quality versions. Proof pennies from this year exhibit mirror-like fields and sharply frosted details, highlighting both the portcullis design and the fine work in rank broady's effigy. While the circulation strike pennies of 2006 are extremely common and of negligible market value, the proof and brilliant uncirculated examples have more appeal for numismatists assembling complete year sets. From a broader economic and cultural perspective, the penny in 2006 had already begun to face questions about its relevance. Inflation had significantly reduced its purchasing power since its decimal introduction in 1971. In the 1970s, pennies could still buy sweets or make up meaningful fractions of everyday prices. By 2006, however, their practical role was increasingly limited to rounding amounts in shops or lingering in change purses and jars at home. Still, the penny retained symbolic weight in the national consciousness. Phrases like "a penny for your thoughts" or "look after the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves" kept the coin alive in the language of thrift and economy, even as its real-world utility diminished. For children, pennies often served as their first tangible introduction to money, savings, and counting, giving the coin a continuing role in education and cultural tradition despite its low economic power. Numismatically, the 2006 penny is an important part of the decimal series because it stands on the eve of a significant design change. Just 2 years later, in 2008, the Royal Mint introduced a Royal Shield of Arms design, which replaced the portcullis reverse on the penny. Thus, the 2006 issue represents one of the final years of the classic Ironside portcullis design, which had been in use since decimalization in 1971. For collectors, this makes a coin historically interesting, as it is part of the closing chapter of a 37-year design era. Collectors often seek to assemble a complete run of portcullis pennies from 1971 to 2008, and the 2006 coin is essential in this sequence. In terms of mintage, the 2006 penny was struck in the hundreds of millions, reflecting a continued necessity in circulation despite declining use. Exact mintage figures can vary depending on whether one considers circulation strikes, proof sets, or uncirculated issues, but the sheer volume ensures that circulated examples remain extremely common. This abundance means that even uncirculated 2006 pennies carry little premium in the collector's market, though coins in pristine, proof condition from Royal Mint sets are somewhat more desirable. Symbolically, the 2006 penny embodies a resilience of tradition within a modernizing nation. Its obverse ties it to the monarchy through the portrait of Elizabeth II and the Latin titles affirming her authority both temporal, regina, queen, and spiritual, fide defensor, defender of the faith. Its reverse connects the coin to Parliament and Britain's historic governance. Its composition reflects the pragmatic economic considerations of minting in the modern world.